Well, hi everybody. Brief bit about my background. I've been doing data analysis probably for about 30 years. So my master's did a lot of sort of simulation, that sort of thing. I've been doing it ever since. Now, big data isn't new. It's as old as I am. The difference really today is not so much that there's big data, but there's interconnected data. I'll go a little bit more about what I mean by that. I remember in the 1990s, companies, retail companies, banks and all that were doing all this stuff. Now, what they couldn't do is get their hands on multiple different data sets. And that's the critical change. And that's because when you've got multiple data sets, you can get a triangulation effect. So you can start to put data about one entity, and when it becomes a person, that entity becomes very interesting together. Now, this problem we're running into now isn't new either. I remember going to a conference on sort of data analytics in the 90s in the States, where all the companies at the time who played with big data used to go and talk about it. And we had some Norwegian chap stand up and say, well, of course, what everybody wants is the net present value of everybody's future spend. And everybody does that. Now it's been reiterated in 2014. So this is an amazing thing. What they want to do is find out your value of your wallet. This is not new. What has changed is a lot more companies now have data that they can do it with, because there's a huge amount of social data, a huge amount of open data coming out there. Secondly, the technology of collecting, processing, and storing is orders of magnitude cheaper. So there's more people doing more stuff with more data, and I think, as Eva said, in the old days, these companies were quite responsible, because the penalty of not being responsible is quite high if you're a retailer or a telecoms company. So today, I think there's a lot more irresponsible activity going on. I think it's because, as you were saying, the payoffs are so huge compared to the disbenefits that it really is a why wouldn't you world, and it's because the law just has not kept up. And then this is a fairly classic situation. If you look at any new technology, and let's say there's now new technology, the internet plus big crunching plus big storage has really created a sort of technology shift, which we now call big data. And whenever you get a technology shift, you get an economic arbitrage. And that creates a Wild West situation, because typically the social mores and the legal policies are left in the dust somewhere as everybody comes in. And we're going to see another gold rush in this space, make no mistake. And a lot of people don't understand the value of what they're giving away, whether it's governments, whether it's people. So there are a lot of people sitting there who understand this arbitrage only too well right now. And it's not you, and it's not our government, and so on and so forth. So that's really what's happened. So the safeguards are not yet around, I think, as you were saying, to protect the innocent from what's going to happen in the next few years. I think when you're saying, I went to the Open Data Institute and gave them a talk about the risks of open data. I got out alive, which was lucky, but there is a salutary study which explains everything I need to say in one thing. This was in 1997, I think it was, in Massachusetts. They decided to open up medical data. There are huge benefits to opening medical data, but typically the people who open it up don't understand the knock-on effects. And what one of the researchers at one of the local universities managed to do was to put that data together with electoral roll data, so it's your classic triangulation, and a few other pieces of data, which allows you to get what everybody wants is the small data set. And so by putting electoral data together with medical data, with knowing a few things in the press, she managed to find out the medical records of the governor and sent it to him. And of course made this very public. And at that point, you made your point, but the trust, once people realize that by having one set of data triangulated with other sets of data, plus small data sets to allow you to find out with a fairly good probability who it is, can occur very easily, then what you've got is a situation which is very high risk. And the problem, I think, right now is the law at the moment means that the benefit was very high. It's very asymmetric. If you're that person whose data gets found out and you suffer for it, the law is not capable of protecting you against the interests. So it's way behind. I think a lot of what you were saying earlier is true. We need to get an ability for the individual's data to be protected legally, so it is not worth people playing fast and loose with it. And that's really, I'd say, the main thing I think we need to start working towards. We're probably saying much the same stuff. This is here, it's for good or for evil. But right now the interests are massively asymmetrically skewed. And I think the debate needs to move to two things. One is, I think people have to be aware of the issues, because then you can have an information-led discussion. I also think people in government need to be aware, even if they wish to ignore it, they need to be aware that everybody else knows what the issues are, because I think there's a lot of vested interest in government. Governments, to my mind, you can either believe that they're ignorant, because they don't understand the value of what they're sitting on, or you can believe that they do understand the value but are trying for various ideological reasons to give the data out, or economic reasons to recoup some part of the budget. And somewhere along the line, if they know that everybody else knows what's going on, then it's much harder for them to, as Winston Churchill said of the US and World War II, they will then try everything, they'll eventually get to the right solution, which is where they're going to get there. And the other worry I have with a lot of this data is that the players right now who own it are not the sharpest knives in the deck, or cards in the pack, whatever. The people lined up trying to get this data and extract and play are much, much, much sharper than the people who currently own this data. I think that's another big issue. If anybody thinks that their databases are safe and can't be taken out, they're living in cloud cuckoo land. The more valuable the stuff is, the more motivation there is to take it.
You talked a bit at the ODI about big data as a hacker target. Do you want to add anything along those lines?
Well, it's valuable, and where there's value, there will be hackers. And as I said, the people protecting it at the moment are not the sharpest. The government is good enough at losing things on trains. Never mind if anybody actually wanted to get it at it. I am fairly cynical of mine, so I sometimes wonder how many of those losers on trains are not under the table commercial deals. Who knows? But what I can guarantee is that people right now, and the mechanisms right now by which their data are protected, are not good enough for the value of what is coming. And I think that's another thing that needs to be wrapped up. And if everybody knows that we're aware of it, then I think you have a better discussion.